Dark here in Switzerland. It's snowing in the lock.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's snowing. Like we have now almost 1 feet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's get rolling here. Welcome everybody to another episode of Lonely Wrist. Sitting in front of me is none other than Romain Marietta, the Chief Product Officer for Zenith Watches. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Blake. That's my pleasure. Second time we're doing it.
Yeah. The first time was in person at the
Yep.
factory, and thank you so much for giving me a lovely tour. Which everybody, I do have to say, if you can ever make it to Switzerland, you have to check out their factory. They do some tours. They really show you what watchmaking is about, and it was amazing because I didn't really know this till I got there. But you guys are kind of the first one. You see everybody talking about in-house this, in-house. You guys were the first really brand to kind of bring everything together under one manufacturing compound.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the main idea of our founder, Georges Vermot. Yeah, he wanted really to establish maybe the first idea of what should be a manufacturer. I mean, it was very much inspired by what was happening in the US, specifically with Ford, with the industrialization of cars assembling, and then also what happens at Valtam and Elgin. So he wanted also to create this kind of manufacture, everybody, everyone, every single craftsmanship under one roof. So yeah, we were one of the first real manufacturer, and ever since we have tried to stay like this. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, something I noticed is obviously I was kind of strapped for time, and I'm sure you remember I was just like here, there, everywhere. But you guys had, I think you guys had, what is it, like 17 different buildings or something like that?
Yeah, 18. Yeah, you remember
like,
well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went in like 3 of them, so I didn't get the full experience.
A lot of them are empty in reality still, but we could potentially grow and be as we were in let's say in the late 50s, beginning of the 60s, something like 1,000 people working at Zenith at that time, and now we are 250. So it's a different bit of a different story.
It was really cool to kind of see like the Defy lab. I thought was incredible. Just the way that you guys put watches through production, how you break them up into base plates, and then the base plates go to like a designated team of watchmakers and they kind of see it through. I thought it was a very kind of intuitive way of thinking about watch assembly and production. Is that something that you guys have preserved throughout the course of your history, or is that something that you guys have recently tried to kind of forwardly think about how to develop and assemble watches in a modern idea?
No, it has always been this philosophy that we tried to follow. As I said, we have been a manufacturer since day one. We have been founded here. We never moved. We are still in the same location, buildings. Of course, it has been. We developed it. We restored it, and we have been one of the first manufacturers to open the doors to public visits, so you can really have a look of, as you said, Blake, how a manufacturers look like, so you can really cruise around, discuss with the people who are working from from stamping the base plate to up all the way up to the horlogerie workshop here. I'm looking at it because it's really it's really next to me.
Okay.
But you can really definitely go through and cruise inside the manufacturer and see really all the different craftsmanships, people's behind every single steps of producing, and the different people working behind what creates the value of a watch.
Yeah. Something I think was probably, I mean, the coolest experience for me was going into the attic, right? I mean,
It's always for everyone.
Everybody knows this story. You know, you guys have such a unique story about Charles Vermot and in how he kind of brought the brand back and saved the brand, and it's just such a cool place to think about, you know, when this happened in the 70s, you know, like how things were, and just the whole kind of thought process for Mr. Vermot, like was just insane. And then, you know, it was kind of a surreal moment when I was walking through and I was filming, and so you guys could go check out the YouTube, which we need more views on. It was just kind of surreal to see. I mean, it's like you guys haven't even undusted it. There's just dust. It's just like you guys are preserving it in the most accurate way. And
we tried to keep it untouched, as we said. We like to say in the watchmaking world, but it's true. I mean, it has been preserved like this, and we wanted to keep it as much, I mean, as authentic as possible. And that's why it looks exactly the same, stuck a bit in times like this. So when you have the chance to go there, and then you also see the movie, you see how even Charles Vermot is explaining what he made, because it was a TV, let's say, reportage explaining his rebel act. So he's just explaining what he did. And he got emotional, and of course, when you look at this, you start to get emotional too, because it's super authentic, and it's just like a human being story of a guy who just couldn't stand the fact that people wanted to throw everything away, what he worked on for so many years, and the rebel act he did just basically save the El Primero. So the story, I mean, everybody knows it, but it's really cool to go in the attic, and it's just super authentic, and we like this story and this place, of course. And everybody that comes to the manufacturer said normally that it's the highlight.
I would I think it was one of the top highlights for me. But additionally, at the time when we had met, you know, I asked you what watch you were wearing, and at the time it was unreleased. But now the Zenith Chronomaster original triple calendar, which also was a watch that Mr. Vermot like had, right? Like that was a watch that you guys had kind of revived.
When he got retired, he has been gifted a triple calendar, and we had the chance to also got our hands on one of the prototype that he was wearing, that he gave to his son Michel, who is still, of course, we are still in touch with him. So now we have it at the museum, and it's one of the 25 prototype ever created. So the let's say the wear watches that were created to test, to validate the principle, the functions of the triple calendar back then in the 70s. So it's an incredible piece.
How so obviously let's talk about you being a chief product officer. I mean, it seems like when I went through the attic, you guys had a lot of the tools. I mean, you guys have little rows, right, with all the caliber, like stamping machinery and things like that. How hard is it for you? I mean, you guys, it doesn't seem like, maybe I'm speaking out loud here, but it doesn't seem like it's very challenging for you guys to be, okay, look, cool, let's just look at our archive of movements and then let's design a watch around it. Like, what's the thought process like when it comes to
it's of course fantastic when you are in our position at the product development team, and I mean, we having such an history, a legacy, patrimony. Of course, you just need obviously to open the books, the archives, and see what's inside. We like to stay respectful, and we want to pay tribute also to what the predecessors have made, but we also need to build the future. But you can also create a new design, but inspire yourself from the past and what has been done, because of course it gives value, content, storytelling to to a product that you want to release, and of course people likes that, and it gives value and valuation to a product. So we are very lucky. We are feeling very lucky to be able to do that. We have nothing to invent in reality, and it's something that I cherish, of course, because I mean, having the chance to be able to see in the archives, and but also in a way to try to twist it, not to reproduce exactly what has been done, but being respectful, of course, but also trying to establish the brand for the next 160 years. We are going to celebrate 160 years next year, and we want to. I mean, the brand will of course survive us, and this is what we have to work on. So, as creative guy, me and my team, I mean, it's just a blessing to be able to work with such a brand with such an history.
What is so you said being respectful is very important to you and your team. Obviously, when I look back at the Zenith catalog, and you look at some of the collections from like the mid 2000s, you guys kind of had what I would consider a deviation. You guys were getting a little experimental, a little crazy. So when you say respectful, what does that mean for you and your team?
Well, it's being faithful to the roots, to the DNA, the value. I mean, also the design languages that could have been created in the past, and that maybe somehow in, like as you said, in the mid 2000s, I'm there since 2006, so I can also discuss about this topic. And when I joined, it's true that we had the Defy collection, but it didn't look at all at what we have now in the collection. It was just creation, not really looking at the patrimony. I mean, it's a way to proceed. It's a way to also try to build a new aesthetic, a new languages. But at the end, it didn't really succeed because it's not really faithful. It doesn't speak the truth. It doesn't have the DNA, the values, and that's probably why it didn't, let's say, stood the test of time. And for me, the secret recipe is to stay true, of course, to the DNA, because otherwise people they will not, I would say, they will not like it. They will not support it, and the client will not understand it. So that's what we have worked a lot over the last 6-7 years at least, even also before. To remain and to maybe come back to our genuine essence, roots, find the right design aesthetics and languages that are correct, and that speaks to the people, and that will speak in the future also to build a collection and the next developments for the future. So this is what we have worked a lot over the last let's say 10 years, but more on the last 6-7 years.
It seems like recently you guys have kind of been putting your eggs in the well, if you look at your entire portfolio, right, you have the Defy, the Chronomaster, the Pilot, the Elite, and it seems like you guys have kind of stayed in that Defy, Chronomaster, Pilot like collection and the Elite collection, or at least from what I've seen. I could be wrong. Seems like it's a collection that you guys are kind of are discovering. Is that accurate? Because I haven't seen you guys have a massive Elite release recently.
Yeah, but for the time being, yes, we have four collections. This is what we wanted. When when I joined 18 years ago, we used to have like more than 15 different collections. So it was absolutely not sustainable in reality. Too many references, too many things to support, too many products to support, and then too many releases whatsoever. So the whole idea was to streamline the collection. Defy, Chronomaster are obviously the two main pillars, strategic pillars. 75 to 80% of the turnover is made on these two collections. But of course, Pilot is important. Pilot has been relaunched, refreshed last year. It's a very important collection for us, historically important because we have the name belonging to us. Since 120 years, we have a huge legacy in that. And the Elite collection was basically one of the first we refreshed in 2020, but it was just before the COVID happens, so it didn't really, let's say, had the chance to establish itself. We are working on something new. We are going to come back next year strongly with something totally new, to replace the Elite collection, to start with a new beginning. It's very important for us, and we want to do it with the 160th anniversary. So we'll come back with one very strong product that will, let's say, set the path and the trend for the coming years in that, let's say, timeless dressy collection, with a new approach, new signature, more horlogerie focus, so higher finishings, different price positioning. So a lot of things are going to change. But once again, it's complementary with what we have with Defy. Let's say maybe the more modern one. Chronomaster, really the roots, the DNA of the El Primero, all about chronograph. The Pilot is, it's really a tool watch. It's a good platform for creating also collaboration. And let's say the new Elite collection with the new naming will also be the start of a new beginning, a new era.
Yeah, the portfolio is a very, I would say, tight and integrated portfolio, because you do have the Defy collection where you guys are kind of having fun, right? You're saying, hey, look, here's Zenith, right? Here we're fun, right? And then the Chronomaster collection where you guys kind of stick to your historic like concepts and designs, and you kind of just you remain faithful, right, to history in that collection.
Yes, exactly.
And now with the Pilot release, which I'm a huge fan of the Pilot. The Pilot's an incredible watch, especially the flyback with the big date. Like, that's a watch that, even just the three-hander, that's a watch that I just want to have in my collection at some point. But no, I was genuinely surprised when you guys, especially if you look at your older Pilots watches, like the ones that were the predecessors to these.
Yeah.
They're totally different.
Totally, another world. It's a totally extreme, the extreme version of what we had. It was very much more vintage oriented. The inspiration came from the 30s, 40s. Our board chronometer, altimeter. So some of the first, let's say, deck or board instruments that we had. We had it for almost 10 years, 11 years. We restarted Pilot in 2012, and we refreshed it in 2023. And it's a new modern take, so it's completely different. The approach, we really wanted to come with something totally new. I agree with you. I think it's very cool pieces that unfortunately not everyone is knowing. So it's up to us also to make it happen, to support. But obviously, these are really cool product. And for the time being, we only have, let's say, 2 movements. So we have 4 different SKUs, 4 different references, and we just released the Porter Yoshida.
Yeah.
And in the future, we will develop it. We want also to come with more movements or new developments, but it takes a bit more. It takes some time to create the movement that we want. But it's true that it's a fantastic collection. And Defy, as you said, is a playground. Defy is where you can really also work with different materials, combination of materials. You can also try some stuff with the dyes, the texturization, you can work with sapphire skeletonization. A lot of things are possible. We have the interchangeable strap system, which also allow us to play and to let also the client play with the watch. And Chronomaster is really about the El Primero. So we don't want to change it. We are very much working with the 3 colors. So I'm wearing the A386, so the really the godfather of the whole. So there's 55 years of difference between the one that you are wearing and the one I have, but they are still remaining very faithful to it. And this we will keep. And next year with the new era coming with the, let's say, the rejuvenation of the timeless collection, we're gonna open a new chapter for the collection.
Yeah, after I left the factory or the manufacturer, I said I need to get a watch to like mark this event in my life, and I literally went back and forth. I was on the Chronomaster original. I was on the Chronomaster Sport. I think, I mean, obviously, I've been wanting a Daytona forever, right? But I just felt like this was the more versatile. Maybe that's at least for my life, this is the more versatile solution. And you know what I actually like about this is, so I could only get one, right? I can only get a Daytona. I can only get a Chronomaster Sport, right? Or a Chronomaster Original, and look at what I have. But to me, it seemed like everybody has a Daytona, right? You know, and this was the more watch nerd way to go. Mm-hmm. You know, like you can walk, you know, into a boardroom and just see a random guy who doesn't know anything about watches have a Daytona. But only a true watch guy is going to be wearing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fact. There's a lot of people wearing Rolex in our world, and obviously, if you are going to a dinner, an exhibition, in a restaurant, whatsoever, and you look at the wrist, you have a lot of chance and probability that people will wear a Rolex, a Daytona, or Submariner, or Day-Date, or whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, we all want to have this kind of successful product. Obviously, I mean, it's not an envy, it's not, but it has to be an ambition to, of course, have this an iconic product such as the Daytona is. So when we have decided to create our own take on what could be a sports chronograph with our own legacy, with our own recipe, but we deep dive in our archives. We tried as much as we can to create the watch the way we think we are looking and what we can bring to the market with our own specificity, with our own feature. So yeah, the Chronomaster is this kind of recipe. A lot of people, I mean, a lot of things have been said on the Chronomaster Sports, that it can look like a Daytona. Obviously, I mean, people are comparing. It's very human to compare with what we know, and with such an iconic and product, a landmark, a benchmark, specifically in the watchmaking industry. Of course, people are comparing to the Daytona, but we have our own specificity, the specific bezel, specific scale, specific way of displaying the chronograph, the time. We have the date. We have an open case back. A lot of things that we try to make it our own way and faithful to what we have done over the last 55 years in the sports segment chronograph product.
Well, arguably, if you look at the modern Daytona, the modern interpretations, it really comes back down to like Rolex has to thank you for that. Because if you look at the
prefer that you saying this than me, but I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I mean, if you look at the pre-Daytona of the Paul Newman ones, and then in the modern one, I mean,
they're totally different.
It's because they also have worked with the El Primero that it does looks like this now. So I always said in private joke, unofficially, that we helped them a bit to access to the throne.
Yeah, I mean,
humble way, very humble way.
Something that I guess, and you may not be able to answer, but as I was working on like some of my research for my factory tour, and we talked about the Caliber 400, and how, I mean, you supplied Rolex with that movement. You know, Rolex took the movement and essentially kind of like rebuilt it. They did. I think they did over. I mean, it was like it was over 30 different modifications, from my understanding, to the movement. Is that just Rolex being Rolex, just so that way they can get away with it, it being their own, or
No, but
I'm
of
just
course they wanted to get their hands on it, to let's say apply their own way of thinking, of developments, of how it should look like. I mean, aesthetically they are very similar. They technically they did some change because obviously they wanted to industrialize it. They wanted to create a lot of watches. They had in the idea to produce big quantities. So when you think about this, you have to have an industrial take on a movement, and we were not producing as much as they are, and this is still the case nowadays. So that's why they did. That's also why they did all these changes, adaptation. I'm always giving this scale or this benchmark, but we are producing the El Primero since 55 years,
yeah.
1969, 2024. We are saying that we have produced 15,000 on average a year. So it doesn't even gives you a million watches a million El Primero in 55 years, and it's not even the annual production of Rolex. So it's still very niche. And I'm including what we have delivered to Rolex in these figures. So
it's crazy to even think about, because in my opinion, I mean, they took the movement in its unique form, right? It was 1/10 of a second, and they're like, no, like, let's just slow that down, and it's like, I mean, you guys are really the only person to stand behind the 1/10 of it. And now, I mean, with the Defy, the 1/100th of a second chronograph.
yeah, high frequency is something that, of course, is not belonging, but people are associating the high frequency with us, and we are fine with it because I mean we are mastering it and we like it, and this is the know-how we have. But we can see more and more brands coming on this. Grand Seiko is a good example.
Yeah.
Even Patek did let's say kind of split second chronograph, tenths of a second. You also have seen Longines on that. Chopard going 8 hertz. So I mean, of course, still limited production, but we are. I mean, for us, it's a basic. It's a given. We are working on that since 55 years, and yeah, it's one of our, let's say, core difference. I mean, how you can really differentiate yourself from the competition, and this is really in our DNA, and we want to keep working on that because it's really associated with us.
I mean, you guys were doing, high frequency movements arguably before anybody else,
Yeah, we have been the first.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you guys had the foresight to say, hey, look, if a movement has a higher frequency, it's going to be more accurate. Which, a lot of these brands are, I mean, and the other brands that I've seen, they're actually doing the exact opposite. They're slowing the watches down. I'm not going to say names, but
yeah, I mean, obviously with all the different frequency, you can be very precise, very accurate. It depends the way you are building the movement, developing it, the way you are assembling it, the way you are setting it, the time you are spending to set the time and the accuracy of a watch, and depending also on the scale, the production quantities that you are doing. I mean, we can see other brands working on that. Most of them, they are doing some very small quantities. We are also doing very small quantities in reality compared to the big names. Our annual production is still, remains still very, very low compared to them, and people just maybe tend to forget about this. But I mean, we are not producing even 30,000 watches, so it's a small scale. It's an industrial scale, but it's still way, way, way less than Omega, Rolex, and the others.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really crazy to think about it, because I had an argument with one of my friends, and when you think about like scale, right? Rolex is producing so many watches, and you guys are producing a very small fraction of what they're producing.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, right? More time, attention, and care would go into assembling that. I mean, arguably, right? This is just a concept, a construct of a thought.
Yeah.
That you guys would put more attention, time, care, love into one watch versus somebody who's just, producing millions,
Yeah. But
and
that gives the whole value to the watch. But I mean, honestly, also Rolex is putting so much of attention, work, care, and the quality is state of the art. I mean, there's nothing about it. I mean,
yeah, of course.
they're really at the level that no one is in reality in producing watches at their scale.
Sure.
Obviously, in an industrial way of thinking. So these are the best ones when you're producing more than 1 million watches a year. But we, as you said, we try to put a bit more in it, like value, care, love, passion. That's very important, and history also. But Rolex also has history.
So something that and I'll probably get murdered for saying this, but so if something weird happens to me, but no. So ironically, I got a watch from my friend. We did like a little trade deal. I had a Panerai I wasn't wearing. He had a Rolex he wasn't wearing. So we just traded. We kept them. Anyways, I'm the type of guy where once I get my hands on something, I want it to be, you and I see eye to eye. I want it to be accurate, faithful. Like I want a new vintage watch. Mm-hmm. So what did I do? Naturally, I sent it to Rolex, and I was hoping Rolex would service it, because it had tritium. It was an older, watch from the 60s, had tritium, so the lume wasn't working. I mean, the dial was like discolored and stuff, so I knew what Rolex was going to do when I sent it in, and I was okay with that. And some people may say, hey, look, you're ruining the watch, you're getting rid of the patina, yada yada yada, but I wanted it to be like a new vintage watch. And Rolex sent it back to me without even servicing it, and their reason was, we don't have the parts. I was like, here you are promising these watches will last a lifetime, but you can't even service a 60-year-old watch, or you're refusing to.
Yeah.
And to me,
at least they are honest. Maybe it was a particular watch that you had, a particular reference. I don't know. We also our promise and commitment is also to try to do this, to be able to restore and to refurbish all the watches that went out of our workshops. And sometimes, of course, you could miss some parts, but you can also reproduce them faithfully. So I don't know exactly what happened with yours, but it's also a different story, because I mean they're way bigger, and yeah.
It was a 1601 Datejust, which arguably is one of the most popular Datejusts ever made.
This one is.
I mean, you see them everywhere. Like, I mean, if you go into your grandpa's cupboard, he's probably got a 1601 Datejust laying in there. You know what I mean? Like, come on. But jokingly, to me, that is something that I take pride in. I want a watch that I know I can carry, right? And as the push for in-house, every watch manufacturer is doing in-house this, in-house that. I get scared as a consumer. Like, I want a watch collection I can hand down to my children, the children that are yet to be born, but I want them to know I want to be able to sleep at night knowing in 50 years, 60 years, when I'm long gone, that they'll be able to accurately take care, or should I say confidently be able to take care of the watches that I give them,
Yeah. Well, I'm totally in line with your with this philosophy. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we want to also be able to provide for clients, definitely.
So we talked very briefly, and when I was, obviously, like I said, when I was making my purchase, which by the way, I am super happy. I can't get it, especially when I go into the rooms with people who have Daytonas, and I wear this, and
Yeah, please do it.
no,
Please do it.
we have in our watch club here, like we'll do a watch event and there'll be like 20 people that show up, and like 7 or like 9 of them have Daytonas. And then here I am, the only one. So I do like that. But obviously when I did a bunch of research and we talked briefly about the bracelet, and I'm sure people are gonna ask me, why didn't I ask you about the bracelet?
Yeah, no problem.
Bracelet situation. And you guys have gotten a lot of I guess negative publicity on the bracelet. But you guys are apparently listening, right? So
no, of course. I mean, we have heard the market. We know the situation, obviously, and we know that the bracelet has some weakness, specifically on the buckle, no micro adjustment. So we are working on it. We are quite well advanced. It takes a bit of time, as I said off the record to you before. But I mean, we need to go around all the patents that people are, I mean, specifically Rolex and some others are registering for buckles. The Rolex buckles, and people don't know it, but has like so many patents that it's really hard to get around. And we really wanted to create something with our own take, and we have found something which we think is very cool and can bring, of course, improvements to what we have now. So we are working on that. We are going to be ready in let's say a year and a half. Totally, it will be also possibly retrofittable for the people who had the previous version. Obviously, I mean, this is how also you are building equity, building also iconicity to your watch. Keep on improving, and this is also what we want to do in terms of design, not only for the buckles but also for the bracelet. We are working on interchangeable strap system. Everything has to be done. It's just a matter of time, all the time. So, but yeah, we are listening and we know the situation, and we are going to update this as soon as we can. Yeah.
Which, thank you from me and from everybody. I think that's also something as a consumer, right? I mean, we're all consumers. We all buy products. Me being a YouTuber, I'm sorry, I'm looking down at my camera because I'm filming later. Me being a YouTuber, like, once I buy a product, there's always that concern of like, will the brand leave me? Like, will they no longer, like you think about like Apple, right? When they update the new operating systems or whatever, like, is it going to be compatible on my phone? So I think a lot about that. Like, once I've made this purchase, this huge financial purchase, like how much further will the brand support me as a customer?
But it's totally a totally logic way of thinking. And as you said, we are also consumer. We are also buying watches. I mean, personally, I'm a watch collector. I'm a geek, like most of probably of your audience, and I'm really proud to be one of you. And of course, I don't want to be left behind by the brand, any brand that I buy. And if I'm working for one brand, I have the same mindset. And obviously, we tend to improve every time we can, and to listen to the feedbacks, to listen to the market, to try to reach what people are expecting from us. And I mean, that for me, that sounds totally logic and basic, but. And we are creating some of the less obsolete product in the world, the watches, because I mean they can be there for the next 200 years and they can still work because they're all mechanical. You just need to wind it, or you just need to wear it, and it's totally self sustainable. So it's a fantastic product, but we have to be proud of this and to keep on improving and listening. And I agree that maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even the world of watchmaking was maybe not that aware, and everything changed with the internet and people that can source information everywhere. Most of the people that are entering now the shops are more aware and have more and are more knowledgeable than the people behind the counter. So you have to be ready, and you have to you need to have the answers.
Something that I'm curious about, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we're coming here about 20 minutes into an hour. Let's talk about something that, I kind of alluded to earlier, but when I was going through the attic, I mean, you guys have so many calibers, and you're combing through the archives probably every day. Are there any like calibers that you've seen in the archives that you're interested in, like you say, hey man, this is super cool, this needs to come back? And if there is, can you give us a taste?
No, but of course, I mean, there are some that you would want to revive, because I mean, you really think that they have also been very important for the brand, for the history of the brand. Some have been really huge steps or huge part of the big book of the history of the brand. And I'm thinking about some of the chronometry ones. And obviously, we would like to revive some, but I mean, you also need to understand that the investment to reindustrialize a movement from the 40s, 50s, 60s is huge. But yeah, I mean, obviously, this is something that we are working on, and we will do it in the future. The first one will come next year, so the teaser is there. I mean, we are going to come back with a movement, to revive a movement, which is a fantastic one, next year for the 160th anniversary. So this is something that we have worked on for the last 4 years now. So it takes time. Some are, of course, worth it. Some are not. You said it. We have developed more than 500 calibers over the course of the last 160 years. I mean, obviously, we will not be able to come back with all of them, and we have to select them. And some are more important than the others. Some are more, let's say, really landmark one. But the real next big things will happen next year with the revival of a caliber. Yeah.
Let me I want to peek into your thought process a little bit further. So once you guys decide, hey, look, this caliber is worth it, we're gonna revive this. Then what? Like what is the process from taking a vintage movement design and modernizing it? Like how do you guys, you know what I mean? Like, obviously you're not just going to throw some silicon in there and call it a day, but what happens from an engineering perspective to modernize a vintage caliber?
But I mean, first of all, I mean, obviously you can have a movement in flesh. You have to disassemble it. You have to measure every single components, parts, see how they have been produced back then, how they were, I mean, how it was developed. Obviously, they were not assisted with computers back then. So you also have then to totally rebuild it in 3D. So it takes a lot of time. So you are starting from papers, from technical plans, and then you are putting into computers in 3Ds, and then you have the whole 3D, and then you check, and you see what you can improve, what could make sense, what could be also what could have been done differently a bit, but still trying to be faithful with the aesthetics and maybe some of the iconic components, or if for example you have a big balance wheel because it was meant to be like this. I mean, you obviously want to keep it, but you have also access now to new materials, to new technologies. You can do a lot of simulations. You can simulate a lot of things about the gear trains, the wear, the tear, which was not existing back then. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You can increase the efficiency of a movement. You can work on an increased power reserve, for example, just because you are just rethinking the kinetic of the gear trains and the efficiency of the energy delivery inside the movement. So this is how we are processing. And then in terms of design, obviously, when everything is in 3D, but then you can start to you can start to work in the playground in the kindergarten, and then this is the most epic moment for us, because you can open the books of the archives, but you can also see what's happening on the market nowadays, from every single brand, from low segment to really high horlogerie product, because we are looking at everything what is done now, and you can get inspiration from a lot of things, but still trying to add your own DNA. So this is how we have processed for all the watches that we have revived, because for the time being we were reviving models. We will go one step further with by reviving a movement, which has never happened in the past. But the last example was maybe the 321 from Omega. But it's not obviously happening quite often that a brand is reviving a movement. So this is what we have thought could be a very good idea for the completion of our collection.
Has there ever been an instance where you guys decide, okay, cool, here's the movement we're reviving, here's the watch we're putting it in, and then you guys start getting into it, and then by the time you've completed that, you're like, holy shit, this is a totally different movement. We've made so many changes, modifications, like, because I was in your lab. I don't know what you call it, but your design center, where you guys were, we were clicking through the movements, and he was breaking it apart and showing me some of the significant technical changes that you made specifically in the pilot's watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't imagine that being the only instance where you're like, by the time you get the movement in and start working on it and reviving it, like, it's totally changed from the early designs to now.
Yeah, it can happen, but obviously now with the computers, with 3D, with simulation, you can simulate a lot of things prior working on the real movement in flesh, prior to working on producing the components and then assembling them, and before the movement makes tic-tacs. You can simulate a lot of things. So you can first evaluate a lot of things prior to go to prototyping, and then there's a theory in computers where a lot of things are working, and then you have the reality where, of course, you have to do a prototype. Of course, you have to see how it works. Of course, you have to make it assembled by different watchmakers, because they are not doing exactly the same way. And things can happen when the watch is totally assembled that you didn't thought about, and it's specifically happening every time. I mean, every time you are producing a new movement, there are some let's say youth problem that are happening from the time making a movement makes, doing tic-tac like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 movement, it's easy, but then producing at the larger scale, like 500 of them, or even 100 of them a month to be able to deliver in the market, it's totally different things. So it's and sometimes we have developed something, we thought it was a good idea, and then at the end, the final rendering, when you have the watch in your hands, doesn't give you exactly the feeling you had before at the design stage. So you also have to accept this. You are creating a lot of babies, but not all of them will become adults. It's exactly the same for movements.
Yeah. Let's shift a tiny bit, and then I'll let you go here. I don't want to spend, I know you. I don't want you to get snowed in, right?
I'm already stuck in the snow.
Okay, all right. Well, if that's the case, we can hang out much longer. But jokingly, you're starting to see the watch market evolve, right? And what I mean when I say evolve, you're starting to see the younger generations get into watch collecting.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked to brands, and I think by now we've already released that podcast. But we talked to a brand that they really made it their mission to kind of target the younger like demographics, like the Gen Z.
Mhm.
Um, and to Zenith, I mean, I don't. I understand that your customer segment is that of very much knowledge, right? You guys are the watch nerds watch brand, you know. But do you guys ever see yourself targeting the newer watch collectors, the newer generations? Is that a priority to you?
I mean, obviously we have to. You can't just target people, um, watch aficionados. Of course, we have this fan base. We have people that knows the El Primero by heart. Most of the time, it was the El Primero movement was even more, let's say, famous than the brand itself. This is I would say when I joined the company 18 years ago, it was accepted, and it was what we had in terms of audience, of clients, type of clients. But we wanted, of course, to rejuvenate that, to target a different audience. This is also why we have created the Defy, the new modern take on Defy, because it was allowing us to target a younger clientele. Because I mean it was more modern in terms of, and more contemporary, but still very linked to our mechanical manufacturer DNA. We are a mechanical and a manufacturer brand. Obviously, it's a niche inside a niche, if I can say so. But obviously, the whole idea for every single brand is to gain wrists, market shares, and to grow. But obviously, we don't want to come from, let's say, 30,000 watches to 3 million. So it's not absolutely not the idea. But obviously, of course, if we can rejuvenate and have access to the Gen Z, we are doing it. And all the different, let's say, collaboration we did in the past, with also Felipe Pantone, with Porter. We also tried to think outside our own box and industry, to attract the different and new clients. And obviously we have achieved that, because we have been able to now have, let's say, an average age of customers at around 40, and let's say 18 years ago or 20 years ago, it was more a 60 years old guy, very knowledgeable about product, and an aficionado of the El Primero, who was knowing the brand. And obviously, of course, it's one of the priority of the brand to have access to younger clients. I'm 42. I would love all my friends to know the brand I'm working for, and the people have the watches that we are creating on their wrist. So absolutely, it's a priority, and we always have this focus in mind when we work on a collab, on future marketing and communication programs. So obviously, it's important. Yeah.
Wait, not all of your friends wear Zenith watches?
Most of them, yeah.
Okay, I was about to say like,
But it's not an
something.
obligation for them, and I won't. I mean, they will still be my friends, and I'm also wearing some other brands during the weekend sometimes. I mean, that's all a matter of fact. But because I appreciate watchmaking, and I'm a big, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a collector. I love watches, and obviously, I'm working for a brand. I'm the spokesperson of the product development for this brand. It doesn't. I know also. I mean, I'm a watch lovers, and I want also to wear some other watches. So yeah,
What
I
what's your favorite Zenith watch ever made, and why?
it's I would say the one that I'm wearing,
The
because
386.
the 386 is definitely the one of the most iconic watch we have created, because it's a watch that has been done in 55 years ago. It was one of the first equipped with the El Primero. It was the first equipped with this iconic signature that we are still using nowadays. It's the grandfather of them all, where we are still taking a lot of inspiration. So this is the one that I like the most, but it's hard to choose only one, because in different aesthetics and there's a lot of other watches that I also want the people to discover in the future, and maybe we will be able to revive them and to or at least inspire ourselves from this particular watch and coming back with it. But if I have to choose one, the 386 is definitely the one I prefer. Yeah.
I threw you under the bus there a little bit because I know it's hard to say which one's your favorite child, right? Really.
It's and as a dad, it's like you are asking me if I prefer my son or my daughter.
Sorry for that, but
that's fine.
But no, so I know for a fact, because whenever we release an episode, we have a lot of watch designers that listen to our episode. They literally reach out to me on a regular basis, because I would say that our podcast has kind of turned into like an industry, like insiders in the industry listen to our podcast. And I know for a fact there's a lot of young watch designers that are going to be listening to you. So I want to see if I can knock out a few questions about design before we kind of part ways. But also a challenge. What would you say is the biggest challenge in designing luxury watches in today's competitive market?
I
always come with the hard questions. You should
know. But obviously designing a watch is not an easy task. But what is the most important for us is proportion. Because if a watch is well proportioned, then normally it should be fine. But then you also have to, of course, think about ergonomy and comfort. And sometimes people are forgetting this aspect of creation. But I mean, proportion is our key. If something is well proportioned, I mean, obviously it will normally be a hit. And designer also sometimes needs to understand more the mechanics, the movements. It will of course help them to have more constraint in their design. And if they have this approach, they will be even more, I would say, greater designer. And I have met a lot, and I have one now, the lead creative director that we have, Sebastian, who has this sensitivity, this sense of being very aware about the movement, the constraint about the movement, listening to the watchmakers and the developers, which they really appreciate, because sometimes the designers are not like this, but it was maybe the previous generation. So yeah, I would say proportion is key.
How would you say that Zenith stays inspired and innovative in an industry that hangs its hat on tradition?
But because we are curious, because we are checking everything that is released from the competitors, because we are just passionate watch geeks. I'm really talking about, that's the spirit we have at Zenith, at least, and specifically, of course, at the product development. But I'm also including the guys at the movement developments, and also the project manager that we have and we are working with, because they really do love what they do. They are passionate about watches, about craftsmanship, and also the watchmaker we have. It's really a specific industry that's, let's face the truth, nobody needs watches anymore. So it's only about passion, and you are creating way more than just an object that is giving and tell you the time. So and for me, that's the driver for at least being willing and having the envy to wake up every day, is to because I just love what I do, and I just really do love watches and what it does represent as a whole. What it does represent for Switzerland specifically, because this is really something that we are proud of. So yeah, it's a fantastic industry, honestly. But in reality, nobody really needs it anymore. But that's even more beautiful, because it's a bit useless, but that's luxury.
That's how you know I'm a sick person, because I need them.
Yeah, I need them too. But it's not to give me the time.
Of
but I need them,
course.
and I need them all. I'm totally
Y-
like you. It's like catching the Pokemons. I
yeah,
need them all.
exactly. Got to
Got to
catch
catch
them
them
all.
all. You got to
Yeah.
catch them all. Yeah, of course.
What I can already imagine some of my friends, some of the guys that reach out to me, that communicate, that listen, would want me to ask this question to you. What advice would you give to aspiring watch designers, who look up to brands like Zenith?
But if you want to work for a brand like Zenith, you have to have the approach of being very sensitive about the history, the legacy we have, because as I said, the brand we needs to survive us. We are just part of the whole history and story of this brand, and you have to be sensitive to mechanical stuff. I mean, we are a manufacturer. We are doing everything here by hand. So you need to have this curiosity about craftsmanship, that every single type of craftsmanship. You have to be very curious. I think that curiosity is the key for a designer, because I mean you are looking at everything, not only what happens in watchmaking, but also in the car industry, in furniture, in fashion, and whatsoever. Everything can inspire you every day, and I'm the oldest in my let's say office here, and I'm always amazed by this new generation, curious about everything. They also made me. They are feeding me, and they made me also thinking a bit differently of what I used to be in the past. Because sometimes I was a bit the guardian of the temple, which I'm still be sometimes, but I'm also more open-minded, and you have to be very much open-minded, but still thinking that there's a lot of constraints at that scale, at that level. And in principle, something in theory works, but then in reality, and when you are starting to produce more, it's sometimes a bit different.
Let's get my two final questions out of the way, and then I'll let you go home. what what can fans? I mean, you've alluded to this already, but what can fans of Zenith expect in the coming years in terms of design and innovation?
But it's really part of our DNA, so we will still try to make the most beautiful watches possible. Innovation is also key, and we are working on that. We are a manufacturer. We want to demonstrate this every single time we do a release. I mean, you can expect us to be always following what's happening in. I mean, Zenith. The history of Zenith has always been following what's happening in the world. Being a witness of the world. So you can expect us to be always on time on this, and you can also expect us a lot of surprises, because we like to surprise people. We like to come where you were not expecting us. So I can promise this. I can also promise that we will stay true to who we are, and the basic that we have set, the foundation that we have set over the last 5-6 years, and still keep on growing on that and not changing. Once again, we have done that too many times in the past. I have seen on my side 6 different CEOs, and my goal, my position is also to try to remain on track, even if we are changing sometimes on that level, and not changing the strategy. So you can expect us to also stay true to what we have set the last 5-6 years.
One of my friends here at a jewelry store, unfortunately they don't carry Zenith, but she is the biggest Zenith fan in the world, because at one point she was, a representative of the brand. She was at one of your retail partners.
Yeah.
And she told me she'll probably be super excited when she hears that I bring this up to you. But apparently she told me that you guys like bought a star and named it after her son.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
What's
like,
the
what's that?
what's the name of the son? I mean, of her son.
I'll have to text it to you, like offline.
Okay.
But she, no, you guys legitimately gave her like a certificate. I think because she sold so many Zenith watches.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, yeah.
And so
That's
yeah,
probably the US team who did that. They like. I mean, we like to be very. We love to have proximity with our sales representative because they are really I mean, the face of also of the brand in a way. Of course, they are behind the counters and they are really supporting us, and we love them for that. I mean, we are retail. We are working with retailers. We are not that much into retail. I mean, our own retail. We are really a wholesale brand oriented. So we like our sales guys, our sales representatives. So, and I'm curious
I,
to know who is she because there's a lot of competition. So who is
I
the biggest fan
she,
of Zenith worldwide? I
yeah,
have
no,
another one in mind.
her name's Sonia, and
Okay.
I will get back to you on that,
Yeah.
for sure, because
Please.
she's so lovely. So I had, when I got my Chronomaster Sport, I wore it into their jewelry store, and like I said, they
Yeah.
don't carry. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a lot of jewelry stores here in Vegas, and they're not on the strip. You know, they're not, where all
Yeah.
the other jewelry stores are. They're out
Yeah.
there, right, in West Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I wore this Chronomaster Sport in like this was like day 2, day 3 when I just got it. Like I'm still breaking it in, And she's like, "Oh my god!" I like literally. I said, "This is my favorite brand." Like she is in love with the brand so much, um, that I have a vintage. Well, I like to share watches. Like to me, what's the most important thing is I would not be here sitting in front of you, lonely wrist, all this stuff would not exist if I didn't love to share my passion with
Mm-hmm.
watches. So I had a Zenith Stellatina,
Mm-hmm.
like all gold Zenith Stellatina, like recently restored. And so the last time I went to the jewelry store, I just said, "Hey, like, just borrow this," you know. And she's gonna wear this. I'm gonna let her borrow for maybe like 6 months or so, and just
Yeah.
kind of, to me, that's what watch collecting's about. Like I've got 3 or 4 of my friends' watches right now, and they've got 3 or 4 of my watches, and
No, but of
it's
course it's about shared passion. I mean, this is why we're here. This is why we are discussing. It's just because we love that industry, we love that craftsmanship, and that makes us sticks. And we have a specific connection with this mechanical heartbeat, and we don't know exactly why, but it's just there, and it's that's fantastic.
yeah, I will certainly get back to you on that.
Please, yeah.
Um, our final question, drum roll. Um, and I know this is probably going to be the hardest question of the night, but with you being in your role at Zenith,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've got dreams that you want to accomplish before you leave the company, and before you hand it on to the next generation of somebody who, you know, who has the ability to step in and take over, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously
Yeah.
we're not going to work forever. I
No,
hope
of
not.
course.
But what would you see? What would you hope to accomplish at your time at Zenith before, to say, "Hey, look, job done. I am done. I have done everything I can in my generation." What do you hope to accomplish before you leave the brand and
I
pass it
would
on?
I would not say something that I would accomplish myself. I think it's what the team could accomplish
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
brand, honestly. And I just think honestly, very genuinely and candidly, that we just deserve to be more recognized for what we are doing. So I would love to see the brand, of course, on more wrists, with more recognition. We have a lot of people who have, let's say, passion, love. They are very kind with the brand. I mean, all the people that I'm meeting every time, they always have a story with Zenith. But we are obviously not the number one purchase for a lot of people around the world. And I mean, this is our job to make it just more. I just would like to build more awareness, notoriety, and desirability for that brand that just deserve to be more recognized. So Of course, obviously, the product that we are doing are there for this. We have been able to do this fantastic, for example, Chronomaster Sport, which we are very proud because it's happening once in a lifetime, probably, when you work for a brand, that you have such a tsunami of demand on one single watch. And it happens to us, and we were very proud because we have worked a lot on that. We worked our ass off in terms of design to make it happen. So we are very proud of this. But I would not say it's the achievement we have done personally, but as a team, and being able to see each other maybe in 20 years, still being friends with all the people I'm working with, would be my best accomplishment. And obviously we have some developments here and there that are going to happen, which I'm very proud, and maybe in 10, 15, 20 years I would be very proud to look back and say, oh, we have been able to do this. But I mean, at the end, it's the success of the product or the line or whatsoever that speaks for itself. So if you are not recognized for this by the clients are the kings, then voila, it's you can say that it's a bit useless. But voila, that would be my.
Unfortunately, like when you think about like even like construction, right? Let's just use construction because I don't think another analogy would be appropriate. But you have people clearing out, trees or leveling areas, and then you have people that are coming and paving the roads, and then people literally will drive on the road and be like, oh, I'm so grateful there's a road today, like I'm driving on this road. But the guys who cleared that for the road to be laid, don't get the recognition that they deserve, and you guys are unfortunately in that position where you guys are the ones that are pushing the industry, and then people catch on later.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, and I think personally, I mean, obviously it's your dream to to get more Zeniths out there and to sell more watches, but maybe in the next 20 years or decade, you guys, I mean, you have that reputation now of being forward thinking, and being ahead of your time, right? And so obviously selling more watches is great, but I think you guys are heading in a great direction.
Yeah, personally. Thank you. I mean, of course we try to be to have this to be ahead of time and forward thinking, and maybe in 15 years people will say that, but at the end it's really, I mean, the story of a brand is made by individuals, but at the end, it's the brand which is really the king. And I really try to stay behind this real belief. I'm really behind the brand and I'm working with, because without this, I wouldn't be honestly very happy to wake up every day and to work for that brand. And we have a fantastic history, a fantastic brand with fantastic people working there, a lot of independence within the biggest luxury group in the world. I have to say, LVMH gave us a lot of independence to also create our own way, our own take on this brand. And this is really, I mean, I have a lot of appreciation for this. And people maybe don't know it, but it's honestly, it's very important. If you don't have like 30 different layers of validation to do something, I mean, you do really have an impact on your daily task, and on all the watches that we are designing. We can really have an impact, personal impact, because of our taste, of course, but also by listening to your taste, to the taste of your friends, to inject this into watches. So this is really that really drives me every day.
Yeah, and I would say that your team here, from working with your team here in the US, you guys are doing that really well, because when you guys first released the pilot, and at that time I was selling Zenith, your rep Jessica was like, hey, like let me get a group. She like gathered a group around of all of us. She's like, tell me
Jessica, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's like, tell me what you think about this release. You know, like, what do you like about, that was at the time when the new pilot first came. And it's, it's small moments like that I appreciate, that you guys are listening. You guys have your ear out, and you guys really want to deliver a product that at the end a consumer can get behind, and they want to buy and spend their own money.
Exactly. Because spending $10,000 for a watch, it's crazy in a way. So you have to think and respect this project from a client's perspective, to put yourself in his shoes. Spending this amount of money for watches is something. So you have to be authentic. You have to be very close to him. You have to listen to him, and this is what really. We have that mindset, honestly, and we want to stay and remain like this, very authentic and passionate. Yeah.
That sounds like that's a good statement to end this one on. So, of course, I want to thank you again for, doing this again with me. You did your YouTube. We sat down we talked a lot about design for the 45 minutes last time I saw you at the factory, the manufacturer, sorry.
Yeah.
And in our YouTube video, everybody go check it out. Obviously I'm going to keep my eyes out, and I'm going to make sure you're not doing anything crazy.
And please, if you see something, raise your hands.
I will say, and I don't know how I got this way, but it was my dream, and I swear I'm not just saying this, because I have three of your watches. I had four. I had a 386.
Yeah.
As well, and I got rid of it. I don't know why. I hate that I did that. An original 386.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always been a dream of mine to own a Zenith. And that's
the best compliment we can get in reality from someone. That's the best compliment we can have. The best sentence I can hear.
Yeah, and something that, as a watch collector, I have dreams to own all these other brands' watches and add them to my collection. But, once you get them into your collection, it's just like that feeling is over, right? That feeling is over. But I don't feel that way towards Zenith. Like, every time I wear one of your watches, especially the Defy, I've got the Defy white ceramic, like, beautiful watch. Like, anywhere I go, I'll wear that. And everybody's like, dude, what is that you're wearing? Like, take that off. Let me see, I get so many compliments. But it really does resonate for me, that it was a dream to own one of your watches, and now I have multiple, and every day I wear them, it never gets old. It feels refreshing. It feels exciting. And there's watches out there that, I've been on wait lists to get, and I've gotten them, and I'm just like, oh, okay, like, whatever, but it's truly an honor every day I wear one of my Zenith watches.
Wow. What can I say? Thank you for this.
I'm saying that.
That's
especially,
I'm super proud and humbled to hear such a thing. It's music to my ears. Thank you.
Especially when I go, like I said, when I go to those watch meetups and everybody's got their Daytonas, and
please keep on doing it.
I will. I am,
and spread the word, spread the good things, the good vibes.
I am a self-appointed ambassador.
Yeah, but that's perfect. That's what we are searching for. People who are ambassadors, clients are the best ambassadors, because they have their own circle of friends, their own networks, and when you do speak about the things you love with passion, then it's just, you're just sharing this, and it's the best way to spread the word. Yeah.
Contagious.
Yeah, it's contagious. Yeah.
Thank
you, Blake.
Thank you so much for spending
time
very
with
much.
us. My pleasure.
Everybody, we're going to leave a link to Zenith's website below. Obviously, these are watches you got to see in person. If you haven't seen them, I'm sure you have. And thank you again for coming on, Romain. I really appreciate you spending time with us. I'll
Thank you
probably
also for your the audience, and if they have any question, please feel free to forward them to me.
yeah. I'll probably see you soon. I am coming back to Switzerland at some point, so I'm sure
Great.
we'll have the same discussion over some
Would
beers
love to welcome you
at
yeah,
some
no
point. Thank
Cool.
you so much for coming on, and we
Have a
will
great one.
talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Blake.